Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a very special new season of Uncanny Treks. We are not just covering Star Trek Lower Deck Season 4, but also what are we covering, Matt?
We are covering, Bob, this old ass cartoon from the 70s about Star Trek, the original series.
Yes. Sometimes called Star Trek: the animated series. So we're gonna bump one episode of Lower Deck Season 4 up against one episode of the animated series from the 70s, Season 1. And then, when Lower Deck Season 5 comes back, hopefully sooner rather than later, pay your writers and actors, Paramount. We will then, continue with Season 1 of the animated series and get into the short Season 2, probably. So I am Bob from Cascadia. That is Matt from the Southland. How the hell are you doing tonight, Matt?
Doing pretty well, Bob. And one thing I want to let listeners know is that, you know, this season of Uncanny Treks, we've learned the secret sauce, guys. We know how it works. We're going to put the Lower Decks episode first, and then the old school animated episode at the end.
It offends alphabetical order, yet it seems to be the right thing to do.
It offends chronological, alphabetical, all orders.
Yeah, all orders.
But when it comes to audience engagement, it makes more sense.
We hear you, audience. We don't see you, but we hear you. You're valid.
We don't want to see you.
Yes. This is also going to be a supersize episode of Star Trek Lower Decks versus the animated series of Star Trek because Bob was out of town last weekend. So we are looking at the first 3 episodes of each show. So that is 6 episodes total. Quite a number of episodes. First up, Matt, we've got Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 1, Tuvix. Does that sound familiar?
Tuvix, Bob. Yes, Tuvix.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds a lot like that character from Voyager.
One Voyager reference he gets. One Voyager
There's
reference.
one.
Yeah. So that originally aired on the 7th of September this year, 2023. We're putting it up against the first animated series Star Trek episode, Beyond the Farthest Star. Aired, what is that, almost exactly 50 years before on the 8th of September, 1973.
Holy shit,
Matt,
yeah. Wow.
do you want to walk? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Do you want to walk us through the plot of the Lower Decks episode Tuvix?
Well, Bob, this is just the Voyager episode of Lower Decks. Let's just put it that way. Like, we had the musical episode for Strange New Worlds. We had the DS9 episode for Lower Decks last season. This is the Voyager Lower Decks episode.
And everyone knows Voyager, Matt.
Yeah, Bob, everyone knows Voyager. We all do. Everyone knows about Catherine Janeway and...
Salamanders.
Aren't there some salamanders? And isn't there a Borg on there?
There's a lot of Borg on there. Surprising amount of Borg on there. Arguably, as we will see, there's one person who doesn't know about Voyager, and that's my beloved co-host, Matt.
Yeah, I don't know much about Voyager, folks. Although I did get a lot of the references just because it's kind of general Trek knowledge at this point. They didn't. I mean, they did make some deep cuts, I'm sure, and you'll point them out to me. But I was able to get a lot of the kind of surface level ones, like the ones everybody knows.
I meant to go back and rewatch some Voyager stuff, but it's just been a busy couple weeks, so I haven't had the time, sadly. But my knowledge on this is not going to be as deep cut as it should be. But you know what? I watched most of these episodes on UPN back in the day, so I still have some authority.
UPN, folks.
UPN.
Between episodes of Martin. No
Yeah,
joke.
hey, don't forget about SmackDown and Judge Mathis, man. It was a great network.
Oh yeah, SmackDown was on UPN for a while. Forgot about that.
Yeah. So we're leading with memes, Matt. We have Boimler on holodeck waste removal duty. I don't know. Sometimes the way the show panders to the Facebook meme groups a little annoys me. I will say that.
Yeah, haven't I seen this before? Like, he's done this before, right? Or is this just something they just like...
You could correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't. I'm pretty sure this is just a meme from Star Trek shitposting, although it was in the trailer for the season, so you've seen it before.
Okay, maybe that's it. I just know that I feel like I have seen this, but it hasn't been recent, though. I felt like... But you're right, it's from the meme. They're literally just catering to the meme crowd.
Yeah, and they've done that before, but this feels like a new level of overtness. Yeah. And speaking of catering, Matt, they're catering to me because it would seem, based on this episode, that T'Lyn is finally in the regular cast after they introduced her at the end of season 2, and then she was just not in the show in season 3 for some reason.
Yeah, but will she stay, Bob? And I mean, we know she stays for these next 3 episodes at least, but
Yeah, she's not in episode 2, but she is in episode 3. So it seems like she's sticking around.
Yeah, which I mean, it's annoying because I know, like in our coverage of the other seasons, we were like, why is this character not staying? She would show up in either the finale or
Premiere.
initial episode, the premiere, and that's it.
Yeah, and much as I do love this show, and I do love Lower Decks a lot, I mean, it is definitely the second best ongoing Star Trek show and second best of the new Star Trek shows. But that said, like, they have explored, the Fantastic Four, our four main characters, very well. And so having a fifth wheel to that dynamic, I think, is very useful at this point in the show's run, right?
Right, and since they're all lieutenant commanders now, like
Lieutenants, junior grade, Matt.
JG,
Lieutenants.
sorry, since they're
Yes.
JG.
They got 2 more ranks to go before
Yeah.
they're lieutenant commanders.
Since they're JG, whatever they are, but can be in command of missions. She's gonna play a really good like foil to Boimler, I think.
Yeah, have you seen people shipping Boimler and her online?
No, I have not.
It has started. It has started.
Oh God, that'll be a fun little meme they can pick up on.
I could see it being kind of funny. Like, I have this image of like her breaking up with him when she realizes that he's just doing it because he's trying to have her be the Spock to his Kirk.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Like even on this,
Right.
even on, we'll get to it later in the third episode, but even on that mission, she seemed like she had her own separate little role they've specifically put for her in this series.
Yeah, it's too,
Almost like Boimler's mentor, but not. I mean, I don't know how to explain it because they're on.
yeah,
the same
it's sort
rank.
of the same thing they've already done with like Ransom and Mariner, right? Where
Yes.
there's like mentorship, but also sexual tension. Yeah.
Right.
So Matt, would you agree that Voyager is in fact the prettiest ship?
No, Bob, I have never been attracted to that ship. It's just, it's too oblique. Like the saucer section, it just rounds off too much. I don't like it. It bothers me.
You know what else is too oblique, Matt? Your libido. Well, Matt, even if you're aesthetically blind and you can't admit the surpassing superiority of Voyager and its oblique curves, you do have to admit that, like Ransom said, shit did get freaky on that ship.
Oh, it did. It did get super freaky, but I didn't really know because I didn't watch it that much. But from what I understand, yeah.
Yeah. And not only did it get freaky, Matt, it smelled of Borg.
Yeah, what does Borg smell like? I imagine that Borg smell like oil.
That seems very plausible, but I don't know. I just think it would be kind of hilarious if like the Borg just really smelled foul. And so like everybody's objection to being assimilated was not like the loss of individuality, the forcing of it, blah, blah, blah. It was just, no, they just really smell bad, dog. I'm pretty sure that they have established that Klingon ships smell. I couldn't give you an exact reference or justification for this, but I feel like they've established that Klingon ships have, shall we say, a strong odor. And then presumably the Vulcans and the Romulans don't have particularly strong scents. But although we do know that Vulcans and presumably also Romulans do think humans smell kind of bad.
Yeah, they despise the smell of humans. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the next step they need to take in Star Trek immersiveness. I need to know what everyone smells like, because Daddy Pike smells good.
Oh yeah, especially whatever he's putting in that hair. That product smells great. So, did you call Dr. Tiana and Chief Billups merging from like 3 miles away?
Did you get a hard on Bob because Tiana was there?
Well, the part that really got me going was when Chief Shax whispers to the merged Tiana and Billups, "Do you have physical memories of our time together?" That was pretty funny. The other bit that kind of got me laughing quite a bit was, this is true that Voyager happened in the 70s of the 24th century, but referring to it as the 70s still does make me laugh. Okay, to run down the references for you. So those viruses, one of which was like laying dormant in the ship. That is a particular episode of Voyager. I must confess I don't remember it very well.
Okay.
And that was one I would have rewatched had I had time. But the viruses get loosed, and then the references kind of come pretty fast after that. Obviously, we had Tuvix. You already mentioned the salamanders, which, if listeners don't know, the salamanders resulted when Paris broke the transwarp barrier and evolved into a salamander. and kidnapped Janeway. She turned into a salamander, and they had children, which Janeway then abandoned. They also
I don't know why I
have.
didn't watch Voyager.
Hey man, it's one of the great all time Voyager episodes. Yeah, so we have Chaotica. He's like supposed to be like a Flash Gordon villain, like Ming the Merciless style. That's a holo program that they went to in a couple fun episodes of later Voyager. The Irish guy who talks about missing his wife, his name is Michael Sullivan. He's another holodeck program. There's a couple not as good episodes where the Voyager crew are chilling in like a kind of holodeck recreation of like an Irish seaside town in the 1920s. And that's the source of one of the famous memes of Janeway is getting a little, shall we say, hot and bothered. And so she goes through to customize the holo program or the holo, I don't know what you'd say, the character of Michael Sullivan to make him a little more attractive. She ups his education, and in one of the most famous lines in Voyager, she tells the computer, delete the wife.
Oh!
Yeah. And yeah, and then the clown, do you remember Michael McKean, who played Mr. Green from Clue and plays Saul's brother on Better Call Saul?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He played the clown on an episode of Voyager, and he's like, that's also an episode I don't remember particularly well, and I don't think was very good, although I do love Michael McKean as an actor very much. But he's some sort of like evil psychic vampire clown, from what I recall.
Okay, so the only other reference that I wanted to ask you about, something about cheese.
Oh, yeah, about Neelix's cheese. That is, I think, a real reference. But to be honest, kind of like the virus, it's one I don't have a strong memory of.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know what that was about, and I was like, that's kind of...
I think that is a real reference, but yeah, it's not one and didn't have time to rewatch any Voyager before this, sadly.
Well, I mean, with all these references and stuff to Voyager, I knew this was like going to be like a love letter to Voyager fans, kind of like how Hear All, Trust Nothing was the love letter to DS9 fans last season.
Although it's kind of interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I felt like in the DS9 episode last season, it was more about seeing characters.
Yeah, it was more about cameos, whereas this is just
and it wasn't about like obscure references to DS9 episodes, right?
Right.
And it's just kind of interesting. And I mean, I think this is like a fair way to treat the shows because, you know, DS9 has a lot of characters you care a lot about. Voyager, not so much. And so to treat
but Bob,
DS9,
they were going to expand on those characters in Prodigy.
Thank God that's canceled. Please, I hope Prime. Please don't bring it back. Let it die.
But they could have cameoed those characters on this show instead. But they wasted it on Prodigy.
Did you see everyone online being outraged that Star Trek Day included no acknowledgement of Prodigy? It made me so happy.
Yeah, it made me laugh. I was like, wow,
yeah,
it really did suck, and we weren't wrong.
Yeah, I'm the Cardassian torturer in Chain of Command, just being like, no, there are only 2 animated Star Trek shows.
And like, guys, it was so bad. I'm okay with comparing, like, in these episodes we're comparing Lower Decks and like this old school ass Star Trek cartoon that's, I'm just going to tell you, it's pretty bad. I'm okay with that. I was not okay with Prodigy.
Yeah, beyond the pale, brother, beyond the pale.
Yeah.
So I will say the build up to the Janeway joke about, you know, her solution to the Tuvix problem was killing Tuvix, which in my opinion is the right move. But the build up to that joke I didn't think was amazing, but Shax's reaction to Janeway's solution to the Tuvix problem was pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, she should have murdered that dude, right? Like, she murders Tuvix.
Yeah. Well, and to call him a dude is a little bit of a stretch, Matt. We might say she murdered an abomination. She corrected a mistake. She rectified an error. I will say I admire, respect, and celebrate T'Lyn's impartiality in this episode. She sees that, these Tuvix-style creatures, they need to be destroyed. And, she respects Janeway's logic, and I respect her for that. Yeah. And speaking of returning characters, at the end we also get a return of those Klingon characters from the last episode of season 2, like the lower deckers and then the one lower decker who became the captain. I thought that was really cool. And that was another thing where in that season 2 finale, they not only introduced T'Lyn, but they introduced Klingon lower deckers. And then I was like, oh, I expected them to use those more. And
Yeah,
they
I do
didn't,
remember
and
that.
they kill them off here. But it was nice to see him again.
Yeah, and we saw a couple of other characters that we hadn't. Like, I feel like we haven't seen Bird Counselor in a long time. Miggly Moo.
Yeah, I feel like Migliamoo and Kayshawn were around in season 3, but I feel like you're right that they weren't emphasized as much. Any guesses about the mystery ship that blew up the Klingon ship, Matt?
I'm gonna go with either the Girardi Borg, the Borgatti, or Mirror Cisco. It's gonna be Mirror Cisco, Bob.
Oh, you're betting on Mira Cisco.
Yeah.
Did Mira Cisco survive the DS9 episodes? I honestly don't remember.
I couldn't remember either if he did or not, but I'm assuming he did. And if he didn't, we'll have a reason for him coming back. Don't worry.
Yeah, sure, of course. It's not like it's that hard to do a resurrection.
Yeah, we're gonna have Cisco coming back in Lower Decks, guys.
When you said the words Girardi Borg, my first thought was no, that should be forgotten like Prodigy. But, if a Star Trek was to bring back the Girardi Borg and to do something interesting with it, I think it would be Lower Decks. So, yeah, if it's the Girardi Borg, I can get down with that.
Yeah, the Borgatti. Let's do it.
I will say one other reference. In addition to all these others, the Voyager getting hijacked did sort of remind me of the season 4 finale of Voyager where they get hijacked. So that was another kind of like less obvious reference that came out to me. Well, Matt, who was your character of the week?
Well, it sure as fuck wasn't Miggly Moo because that character wasn't in this episode.
Matt, are you using our podcast to spread fake news? Are you a Russian? Are you a Russian op, Matt? Is that what I'm hearing?
Sorry about that. So yeah, Bob, I'm gonna go with the curator of the Voyager ship. He was pretty funny, and I felt bad for him because he was trying his best just to make the ship stay in pristine condition, and they didn't give a shit.
I was gonna say he very much reminded me of your administrative style, Matt. So
yeah, there you go. Quit messing up my stuff.
Yeah. Surprisingly enough, I'll give it to Ransom this week. I enjoy his mentorship style, and I enjoy him bonding with Kayshawn. I thought that was fun.
All right, Bob. So let's shift
All right.
into this 70s cartoon.
Yeah,
Star
so we're
Trek.
going into the first episode of the animated series, Beyond the Farthest Star. Matt, what's the plot of Beyond the Farthest Star?
I think you just need to watch Star Trek: The Motion Picture. It's like a condensed version.
Yeah.
It's pretty much
And
it.
you know, That's Gene Roddenberry, very into megastructures, very into God stories, very into, mysterious threat to the solar system. That comes up several times in this series, in the motion picture, and Star Trek 4, and the original series, even a little bit in Next Gen. It's there a lot.
So, Bob, to kind of set the stage for the listeners, this came out prior to the motion picture, but after the original series had the boot, right?
Yeah, I think it starts. Let's see, I can't remember.
73.
Yeah, I can't remember if the last original series episodes are 68 or 69. I think they're 69. So this would have been 4 years or so after the end of the original series, and the motion picture comes out in 79, right?
Yeah, so then you're talking, wow.
Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah, so 4 years after the original series, 6 years after the motion picture. I mean, the idea was to do, basically to do condensed Star Trek original series stories. A couple of them might even have been leftover scripts from that, but with the animation in a I think it was a Saturday morning show, though maybe I'm wrong. I think, as we'll see, like the execution of the animation maybe undermines the intelligence that is there in the scripts.
Well, that's the one thing I wanted to point out from the get-go is that I don't know who the show is for. I mean, it kind of almost fits in that Prodigy thing where, like, it's a cartoon on a Saturday morning, so you think it's for kids, but then the plots are kind of sophisticated for a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Maybe not for you when you were that age, but for most kids at that age, like, there was a lot going on that just didn't really apply to children or anything they would be interested in.
One thing I will say is, and you could disagree with me, and I might be wrong about this because I'm not an expert, but I feel, and it was a Saturday morning show, it would seem, but I feel like the conventions and the expectations of children's animation weren't that well developed in the early 70s, right? And there
Right.
was a sense that just like, it doesn't matter. The stupid kids will watch anything. So the thinking probably was like, okay, kids will watch anything, and we can also get in some adult Trekkies. I assume that was the thinking.
You're probably right, which I think was the theme with the Prodigy too. It's just a lot of colorful moving pictures that
Yeah,
children will
yeah.
watch regardless of what's going on. But then the adults will also be in the room listening and being like, okay, wow, this is like the continuing adventures of Star Trek.
And don't forget that all important third category for Prodigy, which is the large swath of Trekkies forcing their children to watch the show, which is because I don't believe any child watches Prodigy voluntarily. I believe they're coerced into it.
I like to think that people in the 70s were not forcing their children to watch this. I really hope
No,
not.
I like to think it was a better time, and
Yeah.
people weren't so insane about making sure their children shared their religious beliefs, like their beliefs in Star Trek.
So, Bob, my first exposure to this in this episode, the animation is terrible. I'll just go ahead and say
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I
I'm
was
not
gonna
going to
ask
make a
you,
big deal out of
what
it.
what bothers you more, Matt, the animation or the music?
Probably the animation more than anything.
Okay.
I could give the music a like. I know they're probably just using stock music or music that they like could only like produce on like one keyboard or some shit. Like I don't know. I don't think they had much of a budget for this. And I really when it kept flashing too often, which was very annoying back in the '70s cartoons. I just stopped watching it and just closed my eyes and listened to it. It sounds really good as a radio show. So if you are hesitant about wanting to watch these because it's a cartoon, if you just close your eyes or don't turn the actual visual on, it's not that bad. It's pretty good.
Yeah, somebody should just like rip the audio tracks off these.
Yeah.
It would make for a pretty good podcast.
Yeah, I mean, because you got all the voice. I mean, all the voice actors are the legit actors. So I mean, you're getting
Well, almost all.
almost
all.
yeah, but we'll get there.
Yeah, Matt, I'm going to say something a little extreme. I grant you that you have to be very careful with this animation because there is a real seizure risk. But I kind of still prefer this to both Prodigy and the 2023 Superman cartoon we just finished covering.
All right, something's seriously wrong with you, Bob, because I can give you the over CGI'd looks like the Star Wars stuff bullshit of Prodigy. That sucks. Yes, I agree. But my Adventures of Superman is light years ahead of this animation. So
I mean,
I wouldn't put those two in the same category. No, I wouldn't do that.
I would definitely say that I think the animation is objectively worse in Prodigy than the 70s show. I would say yes, I would have to agree that the animation in the Superman show is objectively better than this Filmation Star Trek. But I just as a matter of personal style and preference, I still prefer this to the Superman one.
Wow, Bob has not been exposed to Eastern animation.
I mean, I liked Cowboy Bebop. I watched that in college with an ex. We had a good time. I'm gonna watch Evangelion at some point. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I'll get around to it at some point.
Yeah, did you watch Speed Racer, Bob?
I did watch a lot of Speed Racer as a child. Probably too much in hindsight.
Me too.
Yes, I will say it's not my aversion to the Superman animation. It's not an aversion to all Japanese animation. It's just an aversion to a certain, like, I think more juvenile style of it. That's like I don't like Dragon Ball Z at all either.
Bob hates Asian culture. That's what I just heard.
Yeah. I mean that is what I said. So it's appropriate that you heard
Just go ahead
that.
and quote him on it.
So to keep rolling, you mentioned that most of the cast is back. If I remember the details right, Leonard Nimoy had to bargain hard to get everybody back, but they were initially, I think they were not going to bring anybody back but him. But he got him back. I think he got him back at pretty decent pay. But the studio still played hardball and refused to bring back Walter Koenig, who plays Chekhov.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So I think Gene Roddenberry's solution was to give him a script gig for it's an episode we'll watch called The Infinite Vulcan, which no disrespect to the great Walter Koenig, not a great episode. And as a result of that, we have a new navigator. He's the tri-legged, tri-armed Edosian named Erix. He, like basically every other male character on this show who's not voiced by one of the main cast, is voiced by Jimmy Doohan. So in this episode, Jimmy Doohan also voices the insectoid alien, Transporter Chief Kyle, and the magnetic symbiote.
Damn. Jimmy Doohan was on a roll.
Yeah, and I think basically Majel Barrett, who voices Nurse Chapel in the computer and plays Lexana Troy in Next Gen, she I think basically does all the female characters that aren't in the main cast, and so when we meet the relief communications officer, I believe that's Majel Barrett doing that. Although I'll double check it when we meet her.
Well, going back to Eric's, Bob, we definitely need more aliens on Starship bridges. Like, humans should not hold that majority representation on Federation vessels. I mean, I'm sorry, it just needs to be said. Like,
I
that
agree.
is one up for this cartoon. Things
I
started
agree.
to get way better, like when, live action with Next Gen, because you had Klingon Worf, you had Android Data, you had Betazoid Deanna Troy. I want, like, a weird-ass alien on the bridge, though.
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the things that I kind of dislike about New Trek is I don't think they've leaned hard enough into aliens, right? I mean, we do have some good ones, like Saru on Disco is a very good alien. But then we also have that, thing that like Discovery and Strange New Worlds do where like they kill off an alien character because the makeup is too involved.
Yeah, and then they make them humanoid.
Yeah, yeah. Not the best. Not the
Very
best.
annoying.
And yeah, that's one of the reasons I was kind of thinking this during the pandemic, right? Is that, when it looked like we might not open up for even longer than it took us to open up, it was like, well, maybe this just means the future of Star Trek is going to have to be heavily animated. And it's like, at least in terms of representing aliens, that could be a very good thing.
Because it's always striking when you see, like, a non-humanoid alien on the bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
Working with the Federation, because you're just so used to everyone being. I mean, even Saru's humanoid enough, like.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you got,
although, man, he looks very alien when he's standing up.
Oh yeah, when he's standing, yeah, he's super tall. But
yeah,
I mean, it's not 3 legs and 3 arms. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
You don't
And
need
we
like
really,
to provide alternate bathrooms.
yeah, we really do need Saru was a captain for one season of Discovery, but we really do need an alien captain too. Like, that would be very cool as an ongoing thing.
Yeah, they should have a show like that. I don't know how they would determine what alien to go for.
I mean, I assume they would, if it's live action, they would go for something relatively easy, right? Like a Vulcan or a Tellarite,
Trill.
but Trill, Betazoid, yeah.
But Jordan.
Yeah. So it is pretty insane in this episode that the away team is the 4 most senior members of the crew.
Yeah, I kept waiting for someone to die, and I'm like, that dude in the red shirt could die, and I'm like, wait, no, that's Scotty. He can't. So it's like.
So, Matt, are you willing to acknowledge that there's an obvious superiority of life support belts as opposed to spacesuits?
Like, this is the first time and last time I think I've ever seen these things, and ever will see these things.
I think they come back in this show. I'm pretty sure they do.
Oh, they come back in this show? Okay.
Yeah, but obviously, no, not after the show.
They just didn't want to draw the spacesuits.
Oh, of course that's the answer. They just wanted to draw a force field, not a spacesuit.
You can either draw some squiggly lines or a whole spacesuit. Which would you rather do?
Are you sure Lower Decks hasn't used them though?
I'm sure they have, Bob. But Lower Decks, like, this is the issue I have with Lower Decks. Yes, they constantly refer to shit all the time, but I don't remember, like.
Yeah, because they're so often and so fleeting. It's hard.
Or was it just a throw-off gag? A throwaway gag. I don't know.
Yeah. I do hope that the actor on Strange New Worlds who plays Chief Kyle does grow a sick mustache like the animated Chief Kyle. That would be great.
How many different damn versions of Chief Kyle do we have now, Bob? I didn't know Chief Kyle until we started this podcast. And now I've met 3 different versions of the man, at least.
Yeah, I think there's just the 3. I don't know the actor's name, unfortunately, but there's the guy playing him on the original series. There's the
Strange New Worlds. And
the newer, younger Asian dude on Strange New Worlds. Although as we said, he wasn't in season 2 at all, which was kind of weird. And then you have the animated version voiced by Jimmy Doohan.
Do they have? I wonder if they had one if Chief Kyle was in Star Trek, the Kelvin version.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't remember. I'm leaning no, but I could be wrong. And he definitely was. You remember that? Was it the Star Trek the 25th anniversary game we had as kids?
Yeah,
he was in that.
Oh yeah, he was. I remember that.
I think he looked more like the original series version than the animated
he
series
looked like
version.
Live action. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Matt, would you agree that green gas is the most sinister form of alien life?
Yes, Bob, you have to avoid green gas at all costs.
And it's so lonely, Matt.
I felt bad for that entity, Bob, at the end. They just abandoned that thing in space. It just wanted to get away.
Jimmy Doohan's really earning the extra pay for the extra voices, man. He's putting so much pathos into the So Lonely.
That poor thing.
And, I have to say, honestly, this episode better than I remember. Like, it's not, I mean, obviously, it's got a lot of liabilities, but better than I
we're not talking about
remember,
something
not
great
bad.
here, folks. This is, but it's okay. It's mediocre. It kept my attention most of the time. I was like, okay.
Who's your character of the week from this episode, Matt?
I'm gonna go with McCoy for probably being the most difficult for them to animate and draw, but still looks absolutely nothing like DeForest Kelly to me. So good job, guys.
Even though he says nothing this episode, I'll go with Eric's. I love Eric's.
Oh, and one thing I do want to point out too, especially with McCoy, you can totally tell like the voice acting has been phoned in for a lot of these people, or they're just not trained voice actors.
Yeah, definitely not. I think Jimmy Doohan and Majel Barrett were the only ones who were.
All right, Bob. So we want to shift into the second episode of Lower Decks we will be talking about.
That's right. So we're putting up the second episode of Lower Deck Season 4, I Have No Bones, Yet I Must Flee. Very funny original series, mocking title that. Also aired on the 7th of September this year, 2023. And then almost 50 years before, we have Yesteryear, the second episode of the animated series from the 70s of Filmation Star Trek. Arguably the only one that was considered canon for the longest time, originally aired on the 15th of September, 1973. Matt, what is the plot of I Have No Bones, Yet I Must Flee?
Mariner tries to self-sabotage again while in a menagerie to rescue the most dangerous game.
Indeed. And you might think the most dangerous game is man, but you would be wrong.
Yes, you would be. And Bob, why did they put out 2 episodes for the season premiere? I was excited there were 2, but at the same time, I'm like, damn, there's 2 of them. Like, they didn't tell me they were doing this.
That's an interesting question. If we weren't in it, like, usually I think they might do it to, like, for scheduling reasons, right? Because they want the next show coming sooner, because they got a lot of stuff in the pipeline, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but with the writer's strike, that didn't seem...
Yeah, with the writer's strike and the actor's strike, I don't know why. Maybe, although I think it is sort of a hangover that, we've kind of, although Netflix and some of the others still do it, but we've kind of moved off the binge model for streaming, right?
Yeah.
We moved back to a weekly model, I would say majority. But there still tends to be, like, in preference to that binge model, there still does seem to be a tendency that you drop 2 or 3 for the season premiere.
I guess to try to get people hooked or something. Get them,
Yeah.
If they don't like the premiere, then maybe they'll like the next episode.
And I think it also, like, it is honestly kind of a nice gesture when you're paying for these services by month. It is kind of a nice gesture to have 2 at once, right? And they certainly did that weird thing with dropping the Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks crossover on, was it San Diego Comic-Con day this summer? That was a neat gesture, although it screwed up our scheduling.
Yeah, but I mean, it was nice because it was like a surprise. This was a surprise, but I'm just like, I don't understand why you would drop 2 episodes like that when you know there's a strike and you need to stretch out your programming a little bit.
Yeah, certainly it's something you would more expect to see from a show in a first season, or a show that you want it to catch an audience, or you want it to hook an audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that first episode is always about just introducing people. The second episode is when they kind of get into the meat of what it's going to be about.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't think of examples offhand, but I know some streaming services will drop like 3 or even 4 episodes at once.
All right, Bob. So this episode, I'm going to be honest with you, of the 3 Lower Decks episodes, this is probably my least favorite.
I can see that, but at the same time, I was super stoked that we have some Romulan Lower Deckers.
I know you were,
that was
Bob.
an oversight. We hadn't seen them before. We see them now. I was excited. I love Romulans.
I hate it when Romulans leave upper deckers.
Hey-o. So, Matt, what is the difference between a scheme and a conspiracy?
I don't know. I think it has something to do with, like, the people involved in a scheme know it's intentional, whereas the people in a conspiracy don't.
Okay, so it's a public-private thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I could buy that. I wasn't sure. That's why I asked. It wasn't a trick question, unlike some
And that
of
was
the
the
other
best I could
questions
come up with
you.
in such a short matter of time, so good job, Matt.
And by a short matter of time, you mean literally a week?
No, literally, like the second you asked me, because I forgot to answer this on the notes.
So, Matt, were you happy with the Crusher Troy callback with Shax and Ransom stretching it out in the mirror room?
Okay, Bob. Once again, I feel like this has already been done. This is the second.
It was
Ugh.
in the preview for the season.
I know, Bob, but I'm not that crazy. I'm telling you, I have seen them do this already with something. Was it a meme? Were people being funny and put shit online?
It might have been a meme. It does feel more familiar. Like, I agree with you that it feels familiar, but I'm not sure.
There's something going on
yeah.
here, Bob, and it's freaking me out. Because I had an issue in the first episode, now this episode.
Yeah, but
they may be feeding us the same jokes, Bob, and they don't even realize it.
I think what it probably is just it was in the trailer and then people memed it. That's probably what happened.
Could be it.
I will say too, though, that the gag of Boimler's new quarters, those were actually pretty good. Like, there's the one of it being right over the nacelle and so bathed in red light constantly, or the one between the two holodecks, so he's hearing the Shax to Aeona sex noises. That was all pretty amazing.
And see, I've never even thought about that. Like, some of the quarters probably are really shitty, you know?
Yeah.
But of course, Rutherford shows us you can, like, he had some machine, he could just alter it, so it's all good.
Oh, it was. Well, they have like window.
Yeah.
Screens.
They have like window covers and like soundproofing wall shit. I don't know. Like, there's just stuff that you can do to make sure you don't have to experience that.
But I did love like Boimler's despair when he's just like, why would you put a quarters in between two holodecks?
Yeah. Yeah, like, what hall is that? Where's your room? Right between these two holodecks. Why is your room not a fucking holodeck? What about the what if his room was a former holodeck, Bob?
Oh man, they probably haven't gotten the smell or the fluid.
That's ew, gross. That makes it even worse. That makes it like 5 times worse.
You thought smelling like Borg or smelling like Klingons bad. Wait till you smell human holodeck. Ugh.
God. All right.
We do also this episode get a nice little Enterprise reference. We now have Tucker tubes named after the chief engineer of the NX-01.
Is that what's his first name?
Oh God, don't put me on the spot.
Ha ha! You don't know either. I know some of their names. There's Merriweather,
Trip Tucker, Travis
Trip Tucker. Okay,
yeah. I didn't. I actually got that after thinking. I didn't have to.
Yeah, there's also that attractive Vulcan. And who else?
Who was originally, the older Vulcan matriarch who presides over the Duel and Amok Time, the Spock and Ponfar episode. Originally, that was supposed to be her, but then they changed the names.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to do a Star Trek Enterprise style tribute episode in Lower Deck Season 5?
Oh, hell yeah, they will. You know they will. They'll
Yeah.
just keep doing this. It's milking the money.
I honestly think I want to see the Discovery one. I think that would be like probably better than the show Star Trek Discovery. Is the Lower Decks tribute to Discovery. That would be really fun, actually.
Yeah, I'm really that would be nice. Hopefully they'll keep doing that kind of thing because, the Voyager stuff I enjoyed, but then they switched over to this episode, and I just was not as excited about this episode after getting the whole like the Voyager experience. You know what I mean? It's almost like it was almost like an amusement park attraction. First episode of the season, you got this Voyager ride, and then you go to this, which is it's got some interesting callbacks, but it's kind of back to more of that formulaic model you see in the other episodes.
But Matt, this episode had Ransom and Mariner looking on in horror as the Moopsie drank the zookeeper, yelling, "It's chugging him."
Bob, is Moopsie the new cute thing in Star Trek? Like, are we going to be... I don't think we're hitting, like, Baby Yoda levels of adorable yet. But with a name like Moopsie and sounding like the Canadian baby from South Park, we need a live-action Moopsie, Bob. That's what I'm trying to say.
Can I confess something embarrassing to you, Matt?
What?
So I watched this episode the Thursday night it came out. I jotted down the notes, and then I went to the airport. I didn't sleep well at the airport. I slept on the floor for just like a couple hours. I didn't form memories very well is what I'm saying. And so I'm saying like late this week, I'm seeing Moopsie memes all over my feed. And I'm just like, what the fuck is a Moopsie? Why are people making up a Moopsie? Why are they talking about a Moopsie fighting a Tribble? I don't get it. And so, yes, now I remember the Moopsie, but I had totally forgotten the Moopsie until I reconsulted our notes.
Yeah, and Bob, I actually thought the Moopsie was in the other episodes. That goes to show you this episode was not great, and Moopsie was not that memorable, but it was kind of cute. I mean,
I don't blame the episode. I had to travel and I had a busy week. That's what I blame.
I'll blame the episode.
All right, fair enough. Well, Matt, in the spirit of you blaming the episode, who is your character of the week?
I'm gonna go with Mariner, and primarily for the first scene where she lands. She acts like the worst possible representation of Starfleet to try to get a rise out of Ransom, and it's just cussing the whole time. It's hilarious.
So I feel a little bad for saying this because, episode 3 somewhat renders my complaint obsolete. But I felt this authentically when I jotted it down 2 Thursdays ago, so I'll stick with it. My response to Character of the Week was good episode, but I'm just bitter that neither T'Lyn nor Jen were in it, because at that point I still thought they were just going to forget T'Lyn ever happened.
Bob's Character of the Week was Moopsie. All right. So
that's what I said. That's what I said. So Matt, we're going to the only canonical episode, at least in the 90s and the aughts, the only canonical episode of the Filmation Star Trek, Yesteryear. What's the plot of old Yesteryear?
All right, Bob. Spock travels back in time to his childhood in the only episode of the animated series that was considered canon in the 80s and 90s. So we have a Spock time traveling episode.
Yeah. Did it feel familiar, Matt? Did you see the big influence of the Lower Decks Strange New Worlds crossover took from this episode?
Yeah, it's just lots of time travel shenanigans.
Yeah.
I was really into this plot until time traveling Spock has like full on conversations with Sarek and Amanda in the past. And then I was like, damn it, this cartoon has been ruined.
Even though they did get the actors for Sarek and Amanda, that stuff was death.
They went all out for this, and it was still just ugh. It had such a good idea for at least a 70s animated version of Star Trek, but
yeah,
and then it just messed it up with that part.
Yeah, so this won't shock you at all, but I really do dig T'Lyn, who's the Andorian replacement for Spock we see once the timeline alters. And I also really dig Loom Alik Om, who's the bird historian. The species name is Aurelian, the Aurelian historian. And I'm disappointed that we don't see T'Lyn or Loom Alik again in the show. Although don't worry, Matt, you will at least see the design of Loom Alik again. And for the record, both the Andorian, the bird, and the Guardian of Forever, all voiced by Jimmy Doohan.
Man, that guy was making bank. For
he was getting $30. He was getting $30 check here, $30 check there.
And guys, that was like $800,000 back in 1973.
Yeah. I'd also forgotten that like Kirk and Spock, go to the Guardian of Forever world, and they're studying the early past of the Orions, the early history of the Orions, and I'd kind of thought I'd forgotten that they were studying the Orions. That's kind of a cool thing. They're trying to get insight into one of their enemies,
Yeah, so are we going to have some Orion pirates showing up later, Bob?
You do, and it's actually the first time you ever see what the Orions look like on screen, because they show up. They show up in Journey to Babel, that season 2 original series episode with Spock's parents, but you don't see the ship in that thing. It's just like a thing of light, a dot of light. You don't actually see the ship, much less the Orions.
But Bob, in the Star Trek Anniversary game, I did blow up several Orion pirate ships.
No, you didn't, Matt. You blew up Elysian pirates.
Son of a bitch. You're absolutely right. Damn.
But you will, if I'm remembering correctly, you will have to wait till season 2 of the show to see the Orion pirates.
Okay. Well, I will look forward to that, Bob.
Matt, do you think IDIC, or infinite diversity and infinite combinations, is really just something the Vulcans came up with to try to say that you can't make fun of how stupid their children's dress is?
Bob, those young Vulcans look fucking stupid. I don't need
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah. If you want to see what terrible design work looks like, look no further than these weird ass overall things that the Vulcans are wearing.
But Matt, on a brighter note, what did you think of the Salot design, which is to say Spock's pet?
Okay, the Salot is just like, it's this big teddy bear looking thing with fangs. It's got the body of a lion, the tail and all, with the head of a bear and the fangs of a saber-toothed tiger. And it looks like it was probably pulled from like animation cells of the Flintstones.
But one of my favorite details, it only has one full fang because it's old. Half of the other fang has fallen off.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that. It just yeah.
Did I ever show you one of my favorite memes I made back when I was still in the business of defending Star Trek Discovery Online?
No, what'd you do?
So I took the still of the Salot being sick and baby Spock and adult Spock looking down at it. I drew a circle around the broken fang, and I said minor production inconsistency, and then I labeled adult Spock disco hater, and I put a word bubble that said, "Is this not canon?"
Oh shit.
Yeah. I used to dunk on some disco haters, Matt, and then I became one.
Now we are the disco haters. I got so good at dissing them, I became one.
Well, my position always was it has flaws. They're just not as serious as you think they are, and all Star Trek shows have flaws. And then Stacey Abrams showed up, and I flipped on a dime. So, Matt, do you know what the original plan from the studio execs was for young Spock and Ichaya, his Salot pet?
I don't know, Bob. What were they going to do?
They wanted them to be in the regular cast. They wanted them to come back into the future with adult Spock.
Wouldn't that screw up the timeline like way more?
Matt, what's important? Screwing up the timeline or having characters that children viewers can relate to?
That's what they want, because like all cartoon show executives think that you have to have at least one kid character, or else like the kids aren't going to be able to relate to anything on the show.
Or in demonic shows like Star Trek Prodigy, they think you have to have like 7 kid characters. So, Matt, did you think the Predator that ultimately, fatally wounds the Salot, it's called the La Mancha? Did you think the La Mancha's audio track was basically a Godzilla roar? Because that was my suspicion.
Oh, yeah, they cut that shit from something else. Probably came from Johnny Quest or something.
You're right about the Flintstone energy to this, but you're also right that there's Johnny Quest energy to it. So, Matt, who was your character of the week for yesteryear?
I'm going to go for Ichaya for existing and then sacrificing himself for the sake of the timeline. Thank you.
I'm going for Alik I love historians. I love bird aliens. What's not to love? It's like chocolate and peanut butter, baby.
Everything you'd ever like all rolled into one.
All right. So we're cruising on. We're finishing this stuff out, Matt. We're going to the 3rd episodes of Lower Decks Season 4 and the Filmation Star Trek. That is to say, we're talking about Cradle of Vexilon, which originally aired on the 14th of September, 2023. And then we're talking about One of Our Planets is Missing, which originally aired on the 22nd of September, 1973. Matt, what is the plot for Cradle of Vexilon?
So, Captain Freeman messes up repairs on an ancient supercomputer running an artist ring world. Boimler is shockingly a poor leader. The other 3 probably get hazed, and Chief Billups' ferret, Lancelot, runs amok.
Yeah, I think I messed that up. I think it should just be Lancelot.
Lancelot, sorry.
Yeah, no, that was my bad.
Hold on. And Chief Billups' ferret, Lancelot, runs amok. All right, there we go.
Nice. So, Matt, I do have to say, Ransom as a sculpture critic, really fun. I really liked his thoughts about form, balance, ambition, talent. That was great.
Yeah, they all look the same. Crap. God.
And even funnier than his exercises in art criticism, the anomaly storage room, which they now have access to as Lieutenant JG's, great stuff.
Yeah, but see, this is where they start getting into this like weird ass territory where they're just doing nostalgia shit for nostalgia shit. Like that's the only thing I can say here, though.
Yeah,
you got a room full of gimmicks.
Yeah, and there are a lot of references here, and we are failing our listeners because that's the primary service we can provide is itemizing references. But honestly, I was too tired and too lazy to run down the references in the anomaly storage room. I apologize.
The only thing I want to ask you, what is that damn thing that has like a talking face on it that's silver?
Oh, the Betazoid gift box.
What did I miss that from?
It's in at least one, maybe more than one Next Generation episodes.
Somehow I've missed that. Okay. I did not know what the hell that thing was. It looked like that thing on Pee Wee Herman. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but...
Yeah, I do.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. So, Matt, theoretical question raised by this episode. Do Borgs maintain their genitals after assimilation?
Yes.
All right. And then I actually...
I mean, what are they going to do? Chop them off? I mean, they assimilate it. They turn it into a robot.
I could make a point about pointlessness, but now that I think about it, I think we already know the answer to that, and it's gross to explain why, so I don't want to explain why. So
there you go, Bob.
I will just say instead, Matt, I'm really deeply pissed about Boimler disrespecting the Kzinti ensign, who's apparently named Taylor, which is weird. That doesn't seem like a Kzinti name. But I'm deeply pissed about
Ensign
Boimler
Taylor?
disrespecting. Yeah,
The Kzinti?
yeah.
So, Bob, you exposed me to all these cat people.
Well, in fairness, I exposed you to Star Trek cartoons that exposed you to cat people.
Yeah, but you like me to see these cat people and stuff. And so last week, my ass decided to take a trip back into Skyrim. You know, Skyrim, the video game.
Oh, I thought you were talking about some sort of structure that was in the sky, Matt.
Yeah, and I'm in the character creator, and of course, the first thing my ass seeks out is the cat character option, which is literally a damn Kzinti. I mean, it's like right down. It looks just like one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I named him after my own cat. But the more you expose me to these stupid anthropomorphic aliens like, bird people and cat people, the more accepting I've become, Bob. And I'm not saying I like them, but I don't find them as lame when they do actually show up. So thank you for that, Bob.
I'm glad that my and Star Trek and really all of animated media in America's ambition of slowly turning you into a furry is working.
I'm branching out, Bob. Thank you for doing that. Now when I play my games, I don't pick the human white guy.
Good man. So, Matt, there was something else you noted from the anomaly room.
Yeah.
Right?
So we had the return of the board game world from Move Along Home, the DS9 episode. Mm-hmm. And it made me want to go watch the shitty episode, even though I've seen it and I know it's terrible. That's what Lower Decks does. And I hate it. I will say I liked the way they just kind of did a speed run through it, like as fast as they could. I feel like it's almost like an amusement or escape room for these people. Like if they ever wanted to use that thing, they just gotta do it for an evening.
Yeah, I never considered the possible influence of Move Along Home on escape rooms, but you're exactly right.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, I feel like they can all get together in like a hollow deck or somewhere and just be like, okay, we're gonna do this, and then make it through and be done. Make a night of it.
Yeah, Matt. To keep going, I really did also like when Vexilon is rebooting the world and it starts talking about initiate fjords, distribute miasma, stir primordial ooze. That was great stuff.
Yeah, it reminded me of the beginning of you played SimCity, right?
Not very much actually. Oh. Very little.
Well, at the beginning when like they would show that you're constructing everything, it'd be like reticulating splines, shit. This reminded me of that because it talked about how they were building the world. I kind of want our planet to be like this though. Like it just needs like a full reboot and just starts shooting up primordial ooze out of the ground. That'd be awesome.
Clearly, this game isn't working, and we need to restore it to an earlier save point.
Yes, please make that happen.
Yeah, it's not working out well.
Or put out the update, folks. Put out the update.
Yeah, we need some patches. Desperately need some patches.
So, Bob, when Boimler's charred corpse came flying across all the debris at the end, because he wouldn't let any of the other people help him, did you actually laugh at that?
I laughed and I fist pumped.
I did too. I laughed my ass off. I thought it was hilarious. And it shouldn't be funny, but it's fucking hilarious.
Well, Boimler is a very hateable character.
Yeah, I'm starting to understand it, Bob, because you haven't liked him since the beginning, but now I'm kind of like, oh,
nope, never have. Never have.
You try so hard, but you fail so miserably.
Although Boimler in this episode is more interesting than he's ever been because Matt, what happens to Boimler when he dies?
Well, apparently he goes into the Red Room.
Yeah, and he
From Twin
chills with a
Peaks.
koala. There wasn't a koala in Twin Peaks, but there is a koala in the Red Room in the Star Trek universe.
There is. There really is. You can add a koala to the Red Room.
Yeah, man. Any other thoughts on the Twin Peaks connections here?
I mean, nah. I mean, we had like the zigzag pattern on the floor, and it just had that real like macabre feel to it. I mean, there wasn't much more than that.
It's amazing all the weird things this season is building, or this show is building too, right? Because we have the evil computer league, right? Like
Right.
they're building towards that. They're building to whatever that mystery ship was in the premiere, and then now we have whatever this Twin Peaks angle, which honestly, in some ways, just feels like a retread of the story with Rutherford from last season, but because it's a Twin Peaks ripoff instead of a Tron ripoff, it feels much more
Yeah.
promising.
It's more of a dream type theme.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something else this show can do that I kind of look forward to as it goes on is it really should just embrace the surrealism more and more, you know?
Well, yeah, because you can do so much more with animation.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Bob. So for Lower Decks, my character of the week, for this episode, is Freeman. And it's providing that strange duality between her problem with updating the computer part of the planet and Boimler's similar do-it-yourself style. How about
Yeah,
that?
I can't think of another time we've seen Freeman's like so directly involved in like problem solving. It's kind of
Right.
interesting. Yeah,
She really
I'm definitely.
should have called an engineer.
I'll definitely give it to the Twin Peaks koala.
Nice.
So we're gonna wrap down this mega-sized Star Trek animated premiere episode by talking about one of our planets is missing. What's the plot of the third episode of the Filmation Star Trek?
That's right, Bob. The Enterprise versus a solar system devouring cloud. Reminds me of what they were going to do with Galactus in the Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, Matt. So speaking of adult themes, this one's pretty dark, eh? Pretty dark.
Yeah, I mean, this was no way this was meant to be a kid show. Like, this felt like adult animation for that time. It's just so dark. Like, there's no kid could watch this and be like, oh, that's so cool. Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing really interesting for them.
Yeah, yeah. Although it is pretty interesting that the animated series and the motion picture both really do kind of exploit their ability to kind of show vast size a lot easier than the original series budget could. So, we have big clouds, big mega structures, drawn or created with special effects rather
Right.
than just, yeah.
Well, that's just a sign of the time too. Is that we've already shifted 4 or 5 years since the original series, and then by '79, I mean, we're moving into the '80s with that technology. So,
But yeah, I think that was one of the other thinking. Like, one of the thinkings was you could just make more Star Trek, and kids might watch it. And I think one of the other thinking is like, well, we do have less limits, so we can have more aliens, more sci-fi things. So let's do that.
oh yeah, you could tell more interesting stories, but
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
sometimes they aren't.
So, did you recognize old Bob Wesley, the governor of the planet that's about to be devoured
I
by the
did not. I
cloud?
thought he was random as fuck. What is he supposed to be from?
He's a starship commander in the Ultimate Computer episode
Oh.
where they have like the war game that goes wrong.
Okay, gotcha. And he was this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
recognize him.
Yeah, not a very memorable character.
Yeah.
Then we have the living cloud, right? And then we have
Right.
the living cloud possess Spock. And then we have McCoy about the deck, the cloud possess Spock. That made me laugh.
There's not much to talk about with this episode, folks. We apologize for that. It really is. It wasn't my favorite.
It's just lifeboat ethics and a living cloud, man. What do you want?
Yeah. I mean, and is the living cloud intelligent? Is it not? They're gonna blow it up. I don't know. I felt like they kind of ran out of steam on this episode.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, Matt, in the spirit of running out of steam, who's your character of the week?
Bob Scotty. He gave the Enterprise and Mantilles a chance to live.
Well, Matt, you may not can do a DeForest Kelly voice, but you can certainly do a Bill Shatner pause. I'll give it to Cloud-possessed Spock. Not Spock and not the Cloud, but the Cloud-possessing Spock. I liked that.
That works.
Well, Matt, it's arguably the biggest episode we've ever done. 6 episodes of TV. 6.
Yeah.
So, of those 6, Matt, we've met a lot of characters.
Oh,
Who's
God.
your favorite?
Oh, man. You're going to hate me for this, Bob, but honestly, these last Lower Decks episodes really been Boimler. Gonna go with Boimler.
Dear God.
I know, Bob, I'm
Couldn't
sorry.
you say the Twin Peaks koala instead of
No,
Boimler?
you said the Twin Peaks koala already. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna be a basic ass bitch and I'm gonna go with Boimler.
You are the most basic.
Sorry.
I also have a kind of weird answer. I wouldn't normally say he's like one of my favorite characters, but Ransom is like weirdly prominent in all 3 of these episodes.
He really
and
is.
He's also like he's pretty charming. Like he's the source of a lot of good gags. I really like his relationship with both Mariner and Kayshawn in the first one. I'm kind of surprised I'm saying this, but I'll give it to Ransom.
Nice. All right, Bob. Out of all 6 episodes, this is gonna piss you off too, but I'm gonna have to give it to the same one you did. I'm gonna give it to Tuvix, Bob. Out of all 6 episodes, Tuvix is probably the best one, but it's also it's pandering to fans though. That's really all it is. It's just pandering, like
fan
giving you
service. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fan service. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much more to it. I wasn't going to give it to any of those old school episodes of the animated series, even though it's much better than I expected. But once again, if you don't watch it, if you act like it's a radio show.
Yeah. Well,
and then
you,
the first
you specifically
the premiere episode of Lower Decks, it was okay. It was off to. No wait, that was Tuvix.
That was Tuvix,
The
dog.
second episode, not as great. Third episode, picking back up.
Well, I mean, you did tell me that you wanted to watch something strange.
Yeah,
And so
I agree.
That's one of the reasons we're doing the
agree.
Filmation Star Trek.
It's extremely strange.
Yeah.
What'd you give it to, Bob?
I gave it to Tuvix too, man. I like Voyager. I can be fan serviced, even though sometimes I object to it. So I had a good time.
So, Bob, next week we're covering whatever Lower Decks pops out, and also the Lorelei signal.
Yeah. And I warn you, listeners, it is terrible, but it is of historical interest.
Well,
I think
all
it
right,
also
then.
introduces the cat communication officer too. I think.
Oh boy, a Cassinthe.
No. She's a Cation.
Cation. Shit.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the difference between Cassinthe and Cation?
Different species. Although some people hypothesize that they have like a Vulcan Romulan thing going. But you'll notice that they're pretty different appearances when you see the Cation.
Folks, that factoid was free.
Just giving them out for free here on Uncanny Treks. Thank you for joining us for our magical mystery tour of the first 3 episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks and Star Trek the Animated Series. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.